was no mucking around at the start of this week's NXT. We had to sort out a Heritage Cup. Also, hello my friends, and welcome to Ups and Downs for NXT. If you are keeping count, I now think we're on a run of about 79 shows. Which begs the question, what would I do if I didn't watch professional wrestling? Maybe I'd die. What? Let's up those downs. But yes, it was Noam versus Chad Gable, and we had the Metaphor in one corner, we had the Alpha Academy in another corner. And this was just super duper brilliant 9,000. I mean, I just knew that Gable in this round's format would fly, and Noam has basically made it his own. And we did the first round, and they wrestled, but nobody could get the better of the other one. Huh. We got to the second round, and we got more super wrestling, which is when Ora Mensah was like, well, I've got an idea. Maybe we should distract the referee. I'll boot Chad Gable right in the head, and then Noam Dar, you can pin him. That's exactly what did happen. Dar goes 1-0. In the third round, they went back to even more super wrestling, and my word, at one point they were just going pin, 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 pin. And by the time we got to round 4, I was like, well, look, Chad is going to have to do something, but what is the answer? I mean, they were teasing countouts at that point because they just wanted to keep you on your tootsie toes. When Gable did work it out, he was like, well, I'm a big fan of the German suplex, so maybe I'll give you 79,462. It did work. He got the 1, 2, 3, and now it was 1-1. Brought us to our last round, where for some reason Lash Legend and Maxine Dupree then got into it. It does kind of feel like they're going to do a match. When Chad Gable went for a moonsault, Noam Dar got the legs up, but Chad was like, you think I'm going to fall for that, you absolute buffoon? And he locked in the ankle lock. But if you were observing the situation, which you should have been, why weren't you watching otherwise? The clock was starting to tick down. Ruh-roh. So you could see where this was going, because wrestling does it all the time, because as soon as Noam did tap out, the ref was like, yeah, I'm really sorry, Chad. You may think that Heritage Cup is yours, but it's not. We got to 0-0-0-0 first. Whoops. Still, that this was absolutely brilliant, and another great use of somebody from the main roster coming down and putting an NXT guy over without using their allure, and afterwards all these teams got into it, and it ended essentially with Legend falling into the arms of Otis. Now, the big man was very happy about this, but Lash, well, she basically freaked out. So maybe we're going to dial it back and do another Mandy Rose Otis angle. I still can't believe the culmination of that was in front of no fans. Absolutely ruins me. This was such a good start, and it went a decent chunk of time. I enjoyed myself. JBL was then our legend this week, announcing our Iron Survivor matches, which is always a little bit weird, because WWE reveals them in the week anyway. So it was just like Bradshaw was like, well, I read it on Twitter, why not I do my own announcement? We also made sure we kept our stories going, because we saw the D'Angelo boys having a meal with their family, because they were all celebrating the fact they are now the tag team champions. And we saw Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams chatting backstage. I was a little bit worried. Now, as it turns out, they are friends again. They were just hanging out playing Nintendo when Trick Williams was like, Carmelo, you got this big match later, and I'm going to be in your corner because you are always in my corner. Carmelo turned to him and said, that's a great idea, but I'm sorry, bro. I've got to do this by myself. Trick was also the nicest person about this. He was like, oh, I totally understand. I can feel it in my tum-tum. I was like, Williams, man, he is going to screw you over so bad. It's just a matter of time. When we were meant to have our NXT women's title match, and I knew something was afoot, because I was like, well, clearly this is meant to be the main event. Otherwise, what the flub are you going to put there? I was correct as well, because I presume that Xia Li had drank her cup of tea and spoken to her ancestors, and they had said, listen, Xia, we think you should be a total dick. She was like, sounds good. Because as Lyra Valkyria was making her entrance, Xia was here, and she absolutely busted her up. And actually, this was really stupid. The reason for that is because there is no rules throughout WWE or throughout wrestling. How many times have we seen somebody get mugged off before a match and the referee and the GM just goes, yeah, we don't care. Go in there and have a fight. What difference does it make to us? But here, the doctors and medical professionals are like, no, sorry, Lyra, we are going to have to take you to the back and make sure you're okay. I totally understand why we did do this. Nobody in their right mind thought that Xia Li was going to win the NXT Championship, especially because she lost to Becky Lynch on Raw, although that was the right move. So this was to try and plant the seed of doubt. So while I do appreciate the effort, it was just plogging the inevitable. And yeah, again, try and explain the rules to wrestling to someone that doesn't watch. They'll look at you like, I believe you are a fool. Give it a down. Instead, we went to Edris, Enofé and Malik Blade taking on Humberto, Carrillo and Angel Garza. I think somebody is trying to heat up Humberto and Garza. Because there has been some chatter that maybe Santos Escobar in his new persona needs a couple of guys to feud with the LWO. So why don't you go get Carrillo and Angel? Makes sense. They've also been really good down at NXT too, as this proved. I mean, this was essentially a showcase for them. They ran wild. I mean, Enofé was able to get the hot tag, but he went for a 450. He totally missed when Angel and Humberto did that flapjack knee thingamajig they do, and they got the 1, 2, 3. Now, that's actually going to be proven wrong in about an hour, but we'll get to that. But they are presented so much better on NXT than they ever were on the main roster. I really enjoy them now, to the point they should go back up to the main roster. So that's 2 + 2 = potato. Kind of screws with your brain. Just getting it up. Josh Briggs was then getting ready backstage, and Fallon Henley and Brooks Jensen were like, oh man, you're going to do so great and we're going to be in your corner. But I guess because he was going to fight Carmelo, who also said he wanted to do this by himself, Briggs was like, nah, I'm going to do it by myself too. I was like, what is happening here? Did everybody sit down and have a conversation? We then did get to this though, and it was an Iron Survivor qualifier. Kind of surprised me. So I think somebody had decided, okay, we've got to give this Josh guy a big old push, and when it comes to Carmelo, we need to blur the lines a little bit, because even though the former NXT champion was a rocking and a rolling, when he climbed Team the Turnbuckle, I presume to finish things off, of all the people to come to the ring, it was flipping Lexus King. What are you doing? Now, Hayes spotted him instantly and booted him in the head, because of course he doesn't want him out there, when Briggs was like, well, you kind of hesitated. He lariated his head off to the thought I was decapitated. When he climbed the ropes, he hit that moonsault, which is very impressive to be fair to him, and he got the 1, 2, 3. And look, do not undersell this. The commentators were like, oh my gosh, how did he do it? Even though, don't tell anyone, he had one via distraction. So this makes the relationship between Lexus King and Carmelo Hayes really interesting, because at one point, I thought they were working together. Well, clearly they're not working together now, and if this was their plan, well, they're really, really stupid. Also, I do like new faces going into the Iron Survivor, because, you know, you can try and make someone, and I think Josh absolutely fits into that category. So this shocked me in a very nice way. I'm giving it up. Mackenzie Mitchell then asked Lyra Valkyria, are you going to be able to fight later? You're not going to believe this. She said, yes, I am. So screw the local medical facility professionals. It's all up to Lyra, and now it's our main event. Who saw it coming? When we kind of got goofy wrestling, but it was presented as not goofy wrestling. So it was the best thing on the whole show. It does tie into this Robert Stone Von Wagner story, because Wagner went to Robert's house for dinner, and even though he brought some brownies, some were missing. Because, yeah, in the car ride over, Von had eaten half of them. I get it. You also saw Wagner worrying about his tank top, and he said hello to Robert Stone's wife, and he gets on really well with the kids, to the point he was like, oh man, you're being bullied in school, well why don't I turn up and I'll whip their ass? Stone was like, this isn't the kind of thing we're trying to teach our boys. Then as soon as his back was turned, Von Wagner was like, don't worry, I'm gonna do it anyway. They're friends. We also had this moment because they are children. They were just looking at Von Wagner's scars, and Robert was like, this is not what we do in that household. So one of two things is going to happen. Either this is going to be the greatest relationship we've ever seen since the birth of mankind, or Von Wagner's going to lose it because he does have a damaged brain, or whatever you want to say, and he's going to ruin them all. If that happens, I may cry. This was honestly like watching a Hallmark movie though, and bless NXT. I know it drives some people crazy, but I love that they embrace this stuff. It just makes it feel like you're watching a very unique show, so it gets a round of applause from me. And once again, I know some people will be melting down, but I am heating up. I said the word, up. Wesley then did walk to the ring with a microphone, and he had a very different tack to take, because he knows exactly what he wants. The North American title. Now, he's just such a lovable babyface, it works every single time, but when Dominic Mysterio heard this, he walked out without his mammy, because he can stand on his own 2 feet. He's like, listen, Wes, you can't just come out here and demand title shots. What do you think this is? A GTS? Yes, it is. We've talked about this many, many times. All you have to do is go geese title shot, and you get one. Somehow the condom now books the show, though, because he was like, all right, let's set up a little bit of an opportunity. Because next week, Lee, you are going to have to compete in a fatal 4-way match against some former North American champions, and if you do win, sure, you can take me on at Deadline. What? Now, at first I was like, oh my gosh, former US champions. I mean, it could be Lex Luger. He used to hold that belt, but obviously it's not going to be Lex Luger. But look who it is. Because we are getting Wesley versus Cameron Grimes versus Johnny Gargano versus Bronson Reed. I had to rewind it to make sure I heard that right. I did. That is going to be a certifiable banger. So now I am totally ready for that thing. And I suppose Wesley will get the victory. Although probably pin Cameron Grimes. Still annoys me. Why aren't we doing anything with the guy? He's great. But still, like this up. We then got even more goofy stuff after this. It is for life. Because we had this over-the-top video for the fall of Chase U, and it was basically presented like an episode of Unsolved Mysteries as we went through every single member and asked the big question, well, what happens now? We're going to find out more next week. What I really appreciated about this is that if this was the first time you were watching NXT, while it was totally insane, it did such a good job in catching you up to speed. NXT does that very, very well. We also cut to Thea, Hell and JC Jane after this. They were just melting down because they can't find Andre Chase. When Thea actually said, the last time I had a big opportunity like this, I totally screwed up. And Jane was like, man, you need to have more faith in yourself. She's totally correct. We then cut to Briggs, who was walking around talking to himself, saying, I am so great, when Tiffany Stratton kind of congratulated him, and very handily, Fallon Henley saw this and was like, why were you talking to Tiffany? I was like, man, that's so unfair. She literally went up to him, but I think we planted some more seeds. And speaking of Thea Hell, she was taking on Blair Davenport to try and get in the Iron Survivor. Well, her self-deprecating ways actually came true. Now, she did have JC Jane in her corner, but of course, who she doesn't have at the moment are the Chase U students who used to cheer them on from the stands. Well, they weren't doing that this week because they are appalled about what has happened, and as soon as Thea realized this, she became the super sad panda. She just couldn't carry on. Jane was absolutely livid about this, and she did have the best advice. She was like, Hale, just pretend that's not happening and continue to fight. I was like, I don't want to be that guy, but she's kind of right. Basically, though, this served as a very interesting distraction, which we know WWE loves the most. And when Hale turned around, she got smacked with Blair Davenport's knee. 1, 2, 3. And it rhymes. When it rhymes, it's right. So she is going to go on to the stipulation match at Deadline. And once again, I know there's loads of distractions, and I know there's loads of interference. But when you do it like this, and you embrace the silly side of wrestling, I just think it's so damn entertaining. Imagine it. Why did you lose the match? Because my cheering section weren't doing what they were meant to. It's a massive round of applause. Also, I enjoyed the match. Then a quick video for our main event at Deadline, which is Ilya Dragunov taking on Baron Corbin for the NXT Championship. And here it was essentially going, well, I live my life this way, and the other guy lives his life a completely different way. Almost like they're human beings. I still kind of feel like Corbin should win here because he has done so damn good on NXT. He can have a short world title run before he returns to the main roster. We do not give this man the credit he does deserve. Like I've told you before, he's a chameleon, can do it all. When Eddie Thorpe returned to the ring. Alright, now he was facing Charlie Dempsey after Charlie and his pals had mugged him off last week. And we did have them at ringside, so Drew Gulak and Miles Bourne. I kept an eye on them, thinking they were going to do something. They kind of did. They kind of didn't. So hopefully the powers that be kind of looked through the card and was like, well, we can't keep having these stupid finishes. Somebody, probably a ball guy on the internet, is eventually going to call us out. So what they did instead is they let these two guys wrestle. I think they're pretty damn good. Thorpe was able to hit the haluva kick at one point, but that didn't affect Charles at all, because he locked in this submission. And if you'd asked me what was going on here, I'd be like, well, that Dempsey fellow, he is definitely trying to rip out his spleen. I mean, Eddie Thorpe looks super duper uncomfortable. He's also a smart tamale, though, because when he was there, probably about to die, he was like, I wonder if I can hit the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment, the surprise roll-up, and get the 1, 2, 3. And he deduced this correctly, and he won, just like that. Sadly, though, he has no friends. Because all these three guys attacked him afterwards. Did anybody come out to help Edward? No, they didn't. He's a loser. Still, in terms of showcasing a couple of dudes, I thought this was the way, and surely now Thorpe has to go and get a couple of buddies so we can do a 6-man tag. That's all right. Don't forget what NXT is supposed to be. You just put a spotlight on brand new people and let them run. I'm going to give it an up. Thought it was perfectly fine. Then I was proved wrong. Every time. Because we got back with the D'Angelo family who were having their celebration dinner. And essentially, as soon as Tony and Stax left, Humberto, Carrillo and Angel Garza were just waiting for them outside the door. and they whooped their ass. And the best part is that during the meal, a bunch of the D'Angelo members were coming up and giving the brand new champions money, and one guy didn't give enough cash. They were like, why don't you have more money for us? He was like, taxes. Damn taxes. I love NXT. Still, at Deadline, we are now going to do these two going for the tag team titles, which kind of puts my Santos Escobar plan over there. Unless Angel and Carrillo don't win, and then they get called up, that seems like a funny way to do it. Anyway, ipso facto, when it comes to the D'Angelo family, I tell you the truth, I enjoy every single thing they do. When Ariana Grace also won the night, because it was just a brief video promo, she was talking to the camera, she was like, listen, I'm worried about all these fans, because they need to wash with soap. Now, the delivery of that line was excellent and made me laugh out loud, and she is so good at coming across as like, I'm better than you, but also having this soft side to it. I mean, I think she rocks. And look, yes, I know her in-ring is a work in progress at the moment, but that's the whole point of NXT. We just talked about it. And when she does put everything together, she is going to fly. Because this character is absolutely fabulous. So much so, only went about 45 seconds. Give it up. And then Lyra Valkyria beat Xia Li. I know, I get it. You're totally flawed. Now, it does beg the question what we do with Xia now, but let's look at the majority of 2023. She could barely get on television, and now she just has a certain edge to her, not Adam Copeland, that she hasn't had for ages. So let's put her in a feud, and let's have her have some wins. I think she could do all right. Somehow Lyra was also totally fine at the start of this, because she just ran through Lee. When Xia remembered, probably because he drank more tea, so, oh wait, you've got massive wounds that I inflicted on you. She started to go to work, and she was beating her up, and Valkyria was like, I don't want to lose my title. Like, don't worry about it, you're not going to. So we did like a certain amount of jeopardy, because in no world were we ever going to do the flip here. Although once again, we have kind of presented Xia Li as a threat, because she has that roundhouse kick. And if she does connect, you going down and you knocked out. It did allow Valkyria to sell her ass off here, which must be good for her experience. And yeah, we did tie it in. Because Lee went for that kick, Valkyria was like, no, she ducked it, picked Xia up onto her shoulders, smashed her with the Michinoku driver, and she got the 1-2-3. I'm always going to be a fan of that. The Michinoku driver should be a finisher. So basically we're trying to make Lyra a monster of the division, which is what we should do because she did defeat Becky Lynch. You don't just let that slide. So yeah, all things considered, I am going to give it an up, but now we need a plan for Xia Li. We've got to continue to do whatever we plan to do with Lyra. But yeah, once again, that's perfectly fine. Which did indeed bring us to the end of NXT, and as I tell you every single week, it is just a joy to watch because it knows what it wants to be, and it has a ton of personality. We're doing it again. Up. Now, of course, please go down to the comments and let me know what you thought about the show. Like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Click the video on the screen, which is ups and downs for Raw. I would appreciate that. We'll be back tomorrow with ups and downs for Dynamite. I need to stop moaning about this, don't I? It's just recently, there's been so many shows. It's kind of funny. That's why we should enjoy wrestling. It's there as a distraction. See you soon. Or tomorrow.